I thought I knew her. This story still feels like it doesn't belong to me. It plays in my head like a movie, scenes flashing in no logical order, sound turned down, only the weight in my chest reminding me it's all real. I've been married for 18 years. We have 2 children. We built a life I was proud of. And in just one weekend, I learned it was all a facade. I live in a quiet town just outside Kingston, Ontario. Not the kind of place you'd expect secrets to thrive. People know each other. Kids ride their bikes to school. We host summer BBQs and wave to each other from our front porches. I thought I was living the Canadian dream: house, steady job, happy family. I didn't realize I was the only one still believing in it. My wife, Julia, and I had what I thought was a strong relationship. We had our ups and downs like everyone, but there was trust, or so I believed. I work full-time as a logistics manager. The hours are long, often unpredictable, but I've always made sure the bills were paid, the kids had everything they needed, and that Julia had the freedom to stay home and raise them. That was our agreement. And she always told me she appreciated it. Last Friday, something completely mundane kicked off everything. I received a Facebook friend request from a woman I didn't know, a woman named Kara. We had a few mutual friends, mostly people from around the province and old university acquaintances, so I didn't think much of it and accepted. Within a few minutes, everything in my life began to unravel. Kara messaged me almost immediately after I accepted. Her words were blunt, and I reread the message 5 times before it fully sank in. She said she had just walked in on her husband and my wife, together. In her house. In her bed. And to make it worse, she had her young daughter in her arms when it happened. At first, I was certain there had to be a mistake. Maybe she confused Julia for someone else. Maybe it was an elaborate scam. But then Kara sent photos. And that's when my heart stopped. There was no denying it, it was Julia. She was clearly sitting on a bed in a bedroom that was filled with toys and the kind of soft chaos that only comes with young kids. She wasn't alone in the photo. A man was with her, half-dressed, caught off guard. Kara confirmed that it was her husband, Paul. A man I had never heard of before in my life. What made everything worse, far worse, was that Julia was supposed to be somewhere else that night. I had just dropped her off myself. She told me she was spending the weekend with her friend Rachel at a wellness expo in downtown Kingston. She said it was a girls' trip and that she and Sophie, our daughter, would be staying the night with Rachel's daughter, like they'd done countless times before. It was familiar. Routine. Nothing about it had ever raised a red flag. But apparently, it was all part of a long-running lie. Kara told me she had become suspicious of her husband months ago. He had started disappearing for hours without explanation, developed strange new habits, and avoided looking her in the eye when she asked questions. She didn't want to believe he was cheating, but her gut told her otherwise. And when she came home unexpectedly on Friday night, what she found confirmed everything. Paul and Julia, my wife, were in bed together in their daughter's room. As Kara continued to share the details, I realized how deep the betrayal ran. Julia hadn't just cheated. She had been orchestrating an entire hidden life. She had used our daughter as a cover story, repeatedly telling me that she was taking Sophie for sleepovers at Rachel's house. In reality, Rachel was complicit. She was the one helping cover for Julia, providing an alibi whenever needed. The kids were used as shields. Paul would sometimes even come to Rachel's house when Julia and Sophie were staying over. It was a sickening web of deception, layered in familiarity, trust, and calculated lies. After receiving Kara's messages, I drove straight back to the street where I had dropped Julia off. Paul's truck, which Kara had identified and photographed for me, was already gone. The house was dark. I knew I wouldn't find them there. I felt like I had stepped into some parallel version of my life, one where none of the rules I'd lived by mattered anymore. When I tried calling Julia, she didn't answer. I sent a message telling her that she'd been caught, that I knew everything. Her initial reaction was to deny. She insisted it wasn't true, that I was overreacting. I told her I had the photos, that I had spoken to Kara. Still, she refused to admit it. For hours, we went back and forth through messages. Each text from her felt like a punch in the gut, not because of what she was saying, but because of how easily she was still lying. Eventually, when there was nothing left to deny, she admitted it had happened. But there was no real remorse. No desperate attempt to fix things. Just a hollow apology that landed like dust. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I sat in silence in the living room, staring at the walls that had once held our family's laughter and memories. Everything looked the same, but felt foreign. The next morning, I checked our joint account. That's when I discovered she had drained it. My paycheck had come in Friday, along with an $8,000 performance bonus I had worked months to earn. All of it was gone. She had transferred the money to an account in her name, likely preparing for the fallout. There were no conversations about bills or plans for the money. It was simply gone, like she knew her time in this life was about to end. She came home Sunday evening, trying to act like the world hadn't shattered 2 nights earlier. She looked tired, worn, but composed. She didn't beg. She didn't plead. Instead, she offered an explanation that made everything worse. She said she had been lonely. That I worked too much. That Paul made her feel wanted. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had sacrificed time, energy, and sanity to keep our family comfortable. I had trusted her with everything, and she used that trust to destroy not just our marriage, but the stability of our children's lives. As if that wasn't enough, Kara called me again the following morning. Her husband had confessed more, apparently in a last-ditch effort to appear honest. Paul admitted that this wasn't the first time he and Julia had been together. Not by a long shot. They had been seeing each other for over a year and a half, sneaking around during weekends, arranging meetups under false pretenses, and even traveling to neighboring towns to stay off the radar. And then came the final blow. According to Paul, last summer, when I was away for a 4-day conference in Toronto, Julia invited him into our home. Into our bedroom. With our kids in the house. She had told them he was a family friend, someone Rachel knew. I don't know how much they saw or understood, and the thought that they might have been exposed to something inappropriate makes me sick to my core. At that point, I knew reconciliation was impossible. There was no way back from this. I contacted a lawyer, filed for legal separation, and began the process of freezing all joint accounts and protecting what little remained of our finances. I moved in with my brother while I figured out the next steps. The kids only know that their mom and dad are taking time apart. They don't know the full story. Not yet. But one day, when the time is right, I will tell them. Because they deserve the truth. I've spent the last few days trapped between grief and rage. One moment I feel numb, like I'm watching this happen to someone else. The next, I'm overwhelmed with the weight of everything I didn't see, all the moments she lied to my face, all the times I trusted her without hesitation. Kara and I have stayed in touch. Strangely enough, our shared devastation has created a strange kind of solidarity. We both lost something we thought was secure. And while we're not sure where that connection will lead, we've agreed on one thing: our children will not suffer because of this. We'll protect them. We'll rebuild. We'll move forward, even if it's slow and painful. As for the money Julia took, the lawyer is confident I'll be able to recover at least some of it. What she did qualifies as marital asset dissipation, and there are legal consequences. But even if I never see a dollar of it again, I've gained something more important: clarity. The mask is off. The illusion is shattered. And while it hurts more than I can describe, at least I'm no longer living in a lie. So here I am. 39 years old. Starting over. Relearning who I am without her. And slowly, painfully, discovering that sometimes, the end of a marriage is the beginning of finally being free. If you made it this far, thank you. And if your gut ever whispers that something is off, listen. It might just save you from years of deception.
Damn man, I'm sorry. That kind of betrayal cuts deep. Stay strong for your kids, they'll need your strength now more than ever.
She used your own daughter as a cover. That's next level cold. I hope you get every dollar back in court.
I swear, Facebook is unintentionally the greatest detective tool of all time. One random request and boom, whole double life exposed.